If you think The Sopranos showed you the real mob, think again. The real Mafia had stricter rules than your workplace, and HR carried a gun. Today we're exposing 50 La Cosa Nostra commandments: how to stay invisible, who you can speak to, and the dumb little don'ts that can get you clipped. One mistake, and you're history, because in this world, the fine print is where people disappear. 1. Omertà is the big one. And no, it's not Omar. It's the vow of silence. The idea is simple. You don't cooperate with authorities, ever. In normal life, that's called a bad decision. In their world, it's treated like the only decision. The dark comedy is that it's basically an extreme non-disclosure agreement, except the penalty isn't losing your job, it's losing your pulse. 2. You can have a wife at home and a girlfriend on the side, but you're not allowed to let those worlds collide. The rule isn't about romance. It's about control and risk. Family is leverage, and chaos is expensive. The weird part is the morality of it all. Cheating is shrugged at, but being sloppy about it is treated like you kicked in the clubhouse door with a marching band. 3. At different times, some crews pushed a clean, business-like look, less old-school stereotype, more guy who could plausibly own a hardware store. And the real kicker is the paranoia about sudden changes. A brand new look can feel like you're trying to disappear or trying to be remembered. In that world, your face is part of the disguise. So yeah, sometimes the grooming rules aren't vanity. They're risk management. 4. Once someone is a made man, you don't put hands on him, period. Even if he's rude, even if he owes you money, even if he's the guy who cuts in line and then acts like you're the problem for noticing. The point is hierarchy. Touching him isn't treated like two guys arguing. It's treated like disrespecting the whole structure. In regular life, you get a bad Yelp review. Here, you get consequences. 5. Shorts were considered a no-go for made men in certain circles. Yes, that's right. The dress code mattered. The logic was dignity and respect, the way some restaurants insist on a jacket. The only difference is, at a restaurant, the punishment is a sad walk back to your car. Here, the joke is that your legs are what finally get you in trouble. 6. If close family wore a badge, you might be seen as permanently suspicious. It's paranoia dressed up as policy. Law enforcement connections mean potential pressure, potential leverage, potential leaks. And sure, lots of families have a cop somewhere in the tree. But in this world, that's not community service. It's a red flag taped to your forehead. Congratulations, you failed the background check you didn't know you were taking. 7. There's a moment more than a rule. The habit of checking your car before you start it when tensions are high. That's not tradition, it's fear with a routine. And it's one of those details that kills the movie glamour, because it turns your morning into a quiet little security drill. When your commute needs a safety checklist, the lifestyle stops being cool and starts being exhausting. 8. The kick-up is the economic engine. Money flows up the ladder no matter how your week went. You can have a disaster, a setback, a bad run, doesn't matter. The boss still expects his cut. It's like the world's most aggressive subscription service. You don't cancel, you don't pause, and late fees can come with consequences you can't dispute. Funny how family always invoices you on time. 9. Lying to outsiders is expected. Lying inside the group is treated like betrayal. It's a crooked little paradox. You're supposed to be dishonest for a living, but accurate with your own people. The reason is practical. Bad information gets people arrested, hurt, or both. Still, it's darkly hilarious. The organization that breaks laws for breakfast demands truth like it's a church committee. 10. Writing down names, debts, or crimes was treated as a big mistake because paper trails are a prosecutor's best friend. The rulebook vibe here is almost sensible. If it exists in ink, it can exist in court. And yet, history is full of guys who still scribbled little lists like they were running a bake sale. Nothing says criminal mastermind like keeping receipts for your own bad decisions. So far, the fine print is either about power or about panic, and both smell like cheap cologne and bad decisions. Next up are the social tripwires, the ones that sound petty until you remember the people involved. 11. Cheating on your own spouse might get ignored, but getting involved with another made man's wife was treated like crossing a hard line. This wasn't chivalry. It was ownership and disrespect. In a normal neighborhood, it's a messy breakup and a friend group that takes sides. In this world, it's treated like you stole something off a man's table. The rule is blunt. Don't create a personal war where everyone has weapons. 12. Sunday dinner was treated like sacred time in a lot of old-school stories. Not because they were wholesome, because routine creates stability, and stability reduces suspicion. A predictable family man is a better mask than a guy who never shows up anywhere. The joke is that the scariest people still needed a schedule, like they were managing a youth soccer calendar. Even crime apparently has to work around meatballs. 13. Kidnapping was often described as off-limits, not out of kindness, but because it brings heat fast. After the Lindbergh case, a federal kidnapping law in 1932 helped make it a quick path to national attention. In other words, it wasn't too evil, it was too loud. This is one of those ground rules that's basically a risk chart. Some crimes are bad, and some crimes are bad and inconvenient. 14. Even theft had boundaries in the stories. Don't rob people in your own neighborhood. Don't shake down the locals, you need to stay quiet. The logic was cynical. If you treat the block like your living room, the block won't call the cops when you're doing something shady. It's community relations, mob style. The absurdity is that being nice becomes a tactic, like leaving a big tip is suddenly a security system. 15. Becoming a made man wasn't just about effort. It was often about identity and bloodline. Traditionally, American La Cosa Nostra membership was male and tied to Italian heritage, with the details varying by era and family. In regular life, that's discrimination. In their world, it's standards. The weird part is how openly it gets treated like a membership club, except the membership comes with an oath and a lifetime of consequences. 16. Fistfights between members were treated as a problem because chaos is bad for business. You can't run operations if your own guys are brawling like it's last call at a bar. So even violence had rules about when and where it's allowed. The dry humor is that the organization known for violence still tries to manage conflict like a corporate team-building exercise. Take it outside becomes don't do it at all. 17. Prison time could be framed as a badge of honor, but only if you kept quiet. The mythology loves the idea of guys doing their time like stoic heroes. The reality is harsher. Silence protects everybody above you. It's loyalty, yes, but it's also pressure. In normal life, loyalty gets you a thank you card. Here, loyalty gets you a long sentence and the expectation you'll smile for the photo. 18. Flashing cash was treated like a rookie mistake. The flashier you are, the easier you are to notice, remember, and investigate. This one is less rule and more common sense wrapped in paranoia. It's also funny because the movies trained us to expect big rings and louder suits. In practice, attention is expensive, and the bill shows up when you least want company. 19. There's basically no retirement plan. The idea is that once you're in membership isn't a hobby you quit when you get tired. Some people tried to step back, some disappeared, some flipped, and some got pushed out the hard way. But the policy vibe is clear. The group doesn't love loose ends. It's like a gym membership, where the only cancellation method is a problem. 20. A lot of guys kept a legit job on paper, sometimes a real one, sometimes a convenient one, so their lifestyle looked explainable. It's not the kind of detail movies linger on, but it matters. Money draws questions, and paperwork is the language of questions. The irony is rich. You can run a criminal operation, but you still need to look like someone who clocks in. Even outlaws get stuck doing adulting. By now you've met the real villain. Attention. The kind that sticks to you like glitter and won't wash off. From here, the rule book gets jumpier phones, meetings, and the little habits that scream, somebody's listening. 21. Drugs were treated like the kind of risk that spreads. Not because anyone suddenly found religion, but because an addict is unpredictable, loud, and easy to flip. In normal life, your boss worries you'll miss a shift. In this life, they worry you'll miss a meeting and bring a whole crew down with you. It's less morals and more, we don't need extra chaos. 22. There's a strong ground rule against talking real business on the phone. The logic is painfully modern. Assume someone's listening, because someone probably is. You wouldn't negotiate your salary on speakerphone at the grocery store. They're doing the criminal version of that common sense. Except their HR department comes with wiretaps and subpoenas. The safest conversation is the one nobody can replay. 23. Vincent, the chin gigante, is the poster child for the long con of looking harmless. For years, he wandered around in a bathrobe acting like the neighborhood confused guy, and prosecutors said it was part of an effort to dodge prosecution. It's not a rule. It's a moment that became a lesson. In that world, even your personality can be operational security. Imagine committing crimes with a costume budget and method acting. 24. In New York, sanitation and waste hauling became a famous example of paying for peace. Businesses weren't just paying to get trash picked up, they were paying to avoid trouble and keep things predictable. It's a policy ecosystem, not a single written rule, but the result felt the same. Costs went up and options went down. If you've ever had a surprise fee on a bill, picture that only with fewer customer service numbers. 25. Disputes weren't supposed to turn into random street violence, so you'd hear about sit-downs, a controlled meeting where a beef gets aired out. The reveal is that even criminals like structure when structure protects profits. It's almost civilized until you remember the people mediating aren't therapists. Still, the goal is practical. Settle it quietly, or everyone loses money and gains attention. 26. Then you get the weird folklore stuff, like the superstition around purple in some Italian circles. This isn't universal law. It's more like a ground rule some people grow up with, like don't walk under ladders, but with stronger opinions. The funny part is how serious it can sound in a room full of tough guys. Nothing deflates a scary vibe like realizing fabric color has a reputation. 27. A lot of crews were careful about photos, who's in them, where they are, and what it suggests. It's not because they hated memories. It's because pictures are time machines for investigators. You can't deny you were at a meeting if the camera already told on you. In regular life, the risk is an awkward tag on social media. Here, a snapshot can become a whole timeline in court. 28. Another common ground rule. Don't show up places you don't belong, especially clubs and hangouts tied to another crew. On the surface, it's etiquette. Underneath, it's territory, trust, and the fear that a stranger is either scouting or snitching. Think of it like walking into your neighbor's backyard barbecue and grabbing a plate without saying hi. Only the neighbor is armed and suspicious by default. 29. If you're bringing in money, you're expected to keep bringing in money. And excuses don't age well. A slow week isn't a moral failing, but it can be treated like one if the boss is still expecting his share. It's a policy of pressure, deliver, or get replaced by someone who will. The irony is that family love gets very conditional when the envelope gets thin. 30. Language itself can become a little officiating mechanism. In mob storytelling, a friend of mine might mean an associate, while a friend of ours hints at someone made someone officially inside. It's a tiny phrase that carries a lot of implied paperwork, like saying, I know a guy, versus I know the manager. In their world, the difference can decide whether you're treated like a guest or a threat. Everything we've covered is basically a manual for staying invisible, which is hilarious for people who love being feared. Now we hit the part where the fine print meets federal paperwork, and the paperwork tends to win. 31. Al Capone is the classic reminder that you don't always get caught for the thing everyone thinks you'll get caught for. He wasn't finally nailed by a dramatic shootout. He was hit with tax charges. The punchline writes itself. The IRS doesn't ask if your income is legal. It asks if you reported it. It's the most American twist. Imaginable crime is complicated, but paperwork is forever. 32. Some crews got so wiretap paranoid that even names were treated like a liability. There are accounts tied to Gigante's circle where people avoided saying his name and used a chin touch gesture instead. That's not romance, that's fear with body language. You can't quote a gesture on a recording as easily as a name. When your job is secrecy, even your vocabulary starts wearing a disguise. 33. You'll also hear about how introductions mattered. You don't just walk up and start pitching business to people you barely know. Someone vouches for you, and that vouch carries weight. In normal life, that's networking. In this life, it's a safety feature, because strangers are a risk. The dry joke is that they invented LinkedIn rules for crime without the inspirational posts. 34. Showing respect to rank wasn't optional. You don't interrupt the boss, you don't big-time him, and you definitely don't act like you're equals in public. It sounds like old-fashioned manners until you realize manners are how power stays visible. It's like office politics turned into a physical object. And if you've ever had a manager with an ego, you already understand the basic concept just with lower stakes. 35. There's also the idea of a commission, a coordinating body meant to reduce chaos and mediate disputes between families. It's not a real court, but it functions like an officiating mechanism when things get tense. The point is to keep one argument from turning into a war that ruins business for everyone. Picture a board meeting where everybody hates each other, but they still agree on one thing: attention is bad for revenue. 36. A practical policy shows up again and again. Don't bring unnecessary heat to the neighborhood. Big public scenes, reckless violence, loud talk, those are treated like bad business. You can't operate if everyone remembers your face and your tantrum. The funny part is how professional the logic sounds. It's basically, if you're going to do something stupid, at least do it quietly. 37. There's a ground rule about bringing outsiders into the orbit. If you're not connected, you're a question mark, and question marks are dangerous. The reveal is that this world runs on controlled access. Who knows what, who saw what, who can be squeezed. It's like keeping your house keys limited to a few people you trust. Only their house is an entire operation, and the locks are paranoia. 38. Permission matters, especially when violence is involved. The story rule is that you don't just decide to take someone out because you're mad. You need approval up the chain, because one impulsive hit can trigger retaliation or bring a flood of law enforcement. In regular life, you don't fire your coworker yourself. Here, you also don't fire anyone without a manager signing off. Dark, but structured. 39. They also love to talk about codes, like not harming certain people, but real history gets messy fast. Sometimes those lines existed as talk, sometimes they were broken, and sometimes they were marketing something said to make a brutal business sound like it had standards. It's like a company mission statement in the lobby that nobody follows past lunchtime. The safer way to say it is, they claimed rules, and reality argued back. 40. Even funerals can carry fine print. Showing up can be a sign of respect, a show of unity, or a way to keep tabs on who's still loyal to whom. It's also a public stage where everyone is watching everyone else, which is a lot for a moment that's already emotional. In normal life, a funeral is closure. In this world, it can also be a head count, with meaning attached. If any of these tripwires made you laugh, wince, or both, hit like and subscribe because we've still got stranger details in the back pages. And tell me in the comments which one felt the dumbest, so I know what to roast harder next time. 41. If law enforcement starts asking questions, the friendly chat is where people donate information they never meant to give away. The safest move is boring and unglamorous. Say you want a lawyer, then stop talking. Here's the dumb legal tripwire. Mere silence isn't always treated as an invocation, so you have to use clear words. 42. Once you're in custody, the place itself turns into an officiating mechanism, especially the phones. In many jails and prisons, calls are monitored and recorded, and the warning is basically posted right next to the handset. The only smart habit is treating every call like it's already being played back in a courtroom. 43. Another policy is taking care of families when someone goes away, because loyalty doesn't survive on compliments. The reveal is that support isn't just kindness, it's insurance. If your family is stable, you're less likely to panic, flip, or bargain for a softer landing. It's the dark version of workplace benefits. We've got your back, with the unspoken clause, so keep ours covered too. 44. You don't start side deals without permission, especially if it touches another crew's territory or income stream. On the surface, it's control. Underneath, it's preventing misunderstandings that turn into wars. Think of it like splitting a dinner check. If you quietly slide your portion to the wrong person, someone's going to notice. In their world, the argument doesn't end with a dirty look. 45. Meetings have their own ground rules. Show up on time, don't bring strangers, and don't treat it like open mic night. The point is to keep the room predictable because surprises get people arrested or worse. The dry humor is that even criminals hate that guy who talks too much in a meeting. The only difference is, in a normal meeting you roll your eyes. Here you might not get invited back. 46. Nicknames aren't just colorful, they're practical. They keep real names out of casual talk. They make it harder for outsiders to know who's who, and they let people speak in half sentences without spelling everything out. But the irony is delicious. Once a nickname sticks, it can also become a label investigators map to a real person. Nothing says low profile like being famous under a name that sounds like it belongs on a deli menu. 47. Here's a policy that sounds oddly workplacey. Don't steal from your own side. Outsiders are targets, but inside the circle, theft is treated like betrayal because it sparks fights, retaliation, and attention nobody wants. It's the fastest way to turn trusted guy into loose end. The dry irony is brutal. The people doing crimes for a living still hate being robbed. 48. And now an infamous rulebook moment. Investigators have reported seized commandment-style notes tied to Mafia conduct. And one of the most ridiculous expectations is basically, you're available at all times. The line that sticks is the idea that you show up when called even if something major is happening at home. It's not sweet loyalty. It's ownership disguised as tradition. The fine print is simple. Your life doesn't belong to you. 49. Modern paranoia adds a new ground rule. Smartphones are liabilities. Texts, location data, photos, contacts, it's a tiny pocket witness that never forgets. If the old rulebook feared paper, the new one fears the cloud. 50. And finally, the initiation is one of the most infamous rulebook moments in mob lore. A ritual meant to turn a guy into one of us. Accounts often describe symbolic gestures, blood, oaths, and a serious promise to put the group above everything else. It's the kind of ceremony that sounds theatrical until you remember it's designed to feel permanent. The fine print is the point. You're not joining a club, you're stepping onto a trapdoor. So yeah, organized crime isn't just committed in the streets. It's committed in the fine print. If you want a part 2, tell me what criminal underworld or secret society deserves a full roast next. This is for entertainment and general information. Rules and enforcement vary by family, era, and location.